think it's Sirach. I always think it's second Ezra. Right. Sirach 2:1. It says, "My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright." Right? Set thy heart aright. Become like that little child and constantly endure to make not haste in time of trouble. Right? Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Right? So I'm talking to myself. You understand? Because that's what we forget. We forget that it's not the let me say it this way. I forget this sometimes. That it's not the scriptures that you know. It's also the work that you're doing on yourself, right? I learned about integrity being around the elder apostles. I learned about telling the truth being around the elder apostles. And I'll even extend that to the elder Adama, right? I learned how to be a man. I was a kid when I came into the truth. Really? 20, 21, 22, right? I was a child. I was just breaking out into adulthood. I had a son, but I myself was a child, man. And so coming in the truth, I watched those men. When the scriptures say that you sit at the feet of the apostles, when the scriptures say that, I really I really sat at the feet of the apostles. I was a babe. I was a child. I was a child. And I had to learn how to become a man. There were things that, granted, I had a father. My dad was around, man. My dad, um, every football game in practice, every basketball game in practice, like I had a dad. My dad was around, but there were certain things that he didn't know because his father wasn't around, right? And so when I got around the apostles, it was like apostles and of course Elder Adama. When I got around those men, they showed me how to be a grown up, man. They showed me how to be a grown up, and I'm being honest, man. I'm being honest. They showed me how to be a grown up. I was a baby. I was a child, okay? And they showed me how to act around certain people in certain scenarios, right? We talk about. And this is just me. I'm gonna ramble a little bit here because I have to say these things that's on my spirit. Um, we talk about tipping a lot, right? How the apostles, you'll see the apostles, they tip when they're at a restaurant or if they're at the bar, whatever, wherever they are. I'm just using those as examples, right? But they're always tipping, right? And that it's not about the money. It's not about showing the people that you got a little bread and you're gonna break them off a little bit. It's about the mindset that you're in to tip. Okay, what kind of character you have to tip that person. Those things are important, and they showed me how to do that. I was in a breakfast restaurant just recently, and I sat down. I took my hat off and sat it down on my lap. And to me, that's normal. That's normal to take my head off or to pray over my food before I eat. Those things are normal to me. And this lady, before she left, I even know, you never know you're being watched, right? She came up to me and she put her hand on my arm and she said, I have to tell you something. I was like, oh shit. Like what's this lady gonna say to me now, right? And she says, you have so much class, right? She said, I don't see men taking their hat off anymore when they sit down at the table, right? She said, I had to tell you that, right? And now for us, that's normal, right? Having a hat on is not a something I regularly do. I had a hat on. It was cold outside, so I had a hat on. But I took it off once I got into the building, and people notice those kinds of things, man. But I learned those things from the apostles, right? I learned how to be a man from the apostles. I learned how to steer away from some of these scriptures that I was reading about about men who are backbiters or traitors, and I learned how to steer away from those things by learning from them, right? Because what makes a traitor, what makes a backbiter, what makes some of the characteristics of the things that we spoke about in this lesson are people that are self-willed, right? There's a certain level of humility that you have to carry yourself as a man in the world, man. There's a certain level of integrity you have, a certain level of character you have. And I learned that from the apostles. I've been around them personally, all of them. All of them. I've been around them personally. I've been blessed to be around them. When we say learn at the apostles' feet, I sat and I listened. I listened, hear how they talk to each other, hear how they talk to strangers, hear how they talk to the people they know. Right? I listened, didn't say a word, didn't say one word unless I was spoken to. But I learned how to be a man from those men. I grew up because of them, and I say it all the time. Like I don't know what type of nigga I would have been, because granted I've never been a like a bad kid. I was always what they call a goody two shoe, right? But I was always had excuses, right? Was always blaming somebody for something. It was there was no telling what kind of man I would have been if I never got around those men, right? So I'm just being straight about that. I mean, granted, I don't think nobody gonna get to this part of the show anyway, because Jake don't get to the end. I'll be honest, I don't watch all the way through videos either. So I don't think anybody's gonna get to. Maybe I'll chop this part of it. I really want this to be heard. Like I learned from the apostles, man. I did. I learned from them, right? And I learned how to endure. I said this before in the last show I did. Oh no, I don't know if it's the last show. Maybe it's that Saturday show we did. But I learned from the apostle. I heard the apostle tell me that you got to learn how to love pain. And man, let me tell you something. That's so true, man. You have to. You have to. It brings the best out of you. All right. So that's it, man. I'm rambling at this point. Like I said, I would, but hopefully that was edifying. As always, I want to give all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai Bashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule well. Honor and salutations to the elect. And with that, I say shalom.